Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts. Quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners. I am joined by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily, what are we talking about today?
We have a question today.
Okay.
As a leader, how can we give people our full attention when there are so many demands on us?
Our full attention.
Full
I think
attention.
that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of similar to what we did, I think, 2 episodes ago. In episode 24, we talked about this idea that we have to have an inward focus and show up as healthy before we could ever have a good outward focus. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that episode or watch it if you're on YouTube. That's a phenomenal episode just about the balance there, where if we don't first invest in ourselves, we're not going to even care deeply about the people around us. We're not going to give life to them. So I think that is step one. But then there is, okay, a person is in front of me. How do I engage with them? And how do I make sure that I am genuinely focused?
I am here and I am present.
Yes, because we feel it when we're not, right? You probably have experienced that with me, where you're like, I got a thing to talk about. And there's probably a moment where I check out. And that checkout, you just start scrolling, start texting, start whatever. Is that a thing? Does that happen?
It's, you're good at this, not doing this. I think it's because you most of the time are able to be like, hey, we're here. We have this moment. We have our focus days. We have the ability to sit and do
That's true.
this.
Focus days are helpful.
And normally we can kind of be like, okay, we have this period of time. Let's just
Yes.
do this one thing.
Yeah.
And so we're pretty good about doing that. Occasionally we'll both be like, oh, let's just slowly sway in this other direction. Oh, my phone is here. Oh, my phone went off and I didn't silence it.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Or even my brain jumped to something that we're not even talking about. Like, you can feel that as a human. We can feel that when that happens. Yes, we get kind of derailed. But something interesting you said there is that you think we're kind of good at that. And what's interesting is I think the times we're good at that is because we do exactly what we're supposed to do. Is we set up boundaries. We set up good, healthy boundaries to say, hey, during this time, here's what we're focused on. And what that allows us to do is understand that those boundaries are about creating margin. And with margin, now we can be generous. In this day and age of notifications and too many things happening, and we all say yes to too much. And if your organization is growing, there's so much happening, so much activity. Yeah. In this day and age, I think it truly is generous to give people our time. And to give them not just our time, but our focus, right? Yeah. The reality is if we don't have boundaries, we can't be generous. If we need to talk about something and I say, okay, great, here's a boundary. I have 30 minutes I can focus. And you say, okay, we're going to honor that. We're not going over 30 minutes. Here we go. That then allows me to be generous and focus. And for that conversation to be genuine and engaged. And I'm not, because we've set that boundary of just 30 minutes, I know everything is happening outside of that room, right?
Yeah, setting an expectation. So now I have the expectation that I'm going to have your focus, and I can explain to you what I have. I've got 30 minutes. We can do the work that we need to do.
Yes.
And then we can go back to whatever. And sometimes there are notifications that are important. That's cool.
Sure.
But we have to have that 30 minutes. It's not going to, whatever is going to be fine for 30 minutes.
The world is not going to end in 30 minutes. And so just setting that one boundary allows me then to go, okay, yes, we've got problems popping up in email. Those will be there. We got people texting. We got other challenges on my mind. But for this 30 minutes, here's what I'm doing.
You can't do everything at once anyways. So stop setting that expectation for yourself.
We kind of suck at that, don't we? I have that argument with people all the time. They're like, I'm multitasking. I'm like, no, you're not.
I'm a terrible multitasker, and I can acknowledge that.
No one is good at it. That's the thing. Our brain focuses on one thing at a time.
You're not actually multitasking.
Yes, you're just switching a lot. But every time we switch, it takes a moment to really focus in. And so as a result, then we're never focused on anything. But this idea of boundaries is so helpful to say, my goal as a leader is to give my people my true focus, to be generous in that. But if I never set boundaries, it's never going to happen. Yeah.
You're identifying it as a priority. I think that's another one of those words, actions.
Exactly. It is. Now we can be intentional about that priority. Yeah. And I think what's interesting is you'll have, I run into leaders all the time that have that person in their organization that is just a vampire. They are a time suck. They are an energy suck. And often they're afraid to put boundaries around that. So they see them pop into their office and they're like, oh my God, this is going to be an hour-long conversation. And I don't have an hour. I've got all these other things going on. But they don't say no. And so the person sits down and for an hour, you're half listening, you're half emailing, you're half, and nothing really good is happening. Right.
And if they just walked in your office, you say, okay, I got 10 minutes to have this discussion. Yes. Let's have a discussion. And then we can go about.
That is so healthy to say, I have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I can give you 10 minutes of focus. Let's go.
And that person that walked in, the vampire, probably would be happy to know that they don't want to sit and kill your time. But if you're like, sure, it's fine, and in the back of your mind, you're going, this is terrible.
Yeah.
They don't want that. They don't want to be that person. Not at all.
And so much of this comes down to just communicating that.
Yeah.
And saying, I have 10 minutes, I have 30 minutes. That 10 minutes is not a measure of your value. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of an hour, because I think that's why we don't communicate. We're afraid people are going to feel that. But the reality is, as you get higher and higher, and I have this conversation with people at the highest levels of leadership all the time, there are just too many demands on your time. Mm-hmm. And you cannot give every single person an hour.
Right.
But the more we set those healthy boundaries, the more we can focus, the more we can actually get the important things done.
Yeah.
And make sure we're getting done for them what they need from us in a healthy way. That rhythm is something that helps us prevent burnout, when we can have all the conversations because they fit in these little boxes, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's worth noting that if you do have scheduled in your time to be present as a leader for your people, then they aren't going to be wandering into your office all the time.
That's the thing. If they know they can get answers and they can get things, but it needs to be scheduled,
there's a time for it.
Yes, it works out so much better. I'm not going to pop in if I know every day at 3 you have set aside 30 minutes for me.
Or you got office hours.
100%. And communicating that, though, and being practical about it and saying this boundary creates margin.
Yeah.
Now I can be generous. If there's no margin, we can't be generous. Mm-hmm. And we all want to be generous, right? With our time, with our energy, with the things we know, but it takes those boundaries, and that just takes communication. Value the boundary and then communicate it. And often with boundaries, we also have to point back to them constantly, right? To say, hey, there's the boundary.
I see you on your
Don't
phone.
Forget. Yes. 100%.
I'm going to pause what I'm doing, and we're going to pause my time because you need to do what you're doing.
Absolutely. So, leader, if you have so many demands on you, there's just too much. Start setting boundaries. Identify where you need to create some boundaries and some boxes to say, in this time, I am focused on this thing, and nothing else will matter in that time. It really does unlock your schedule and your productivity in a way that is life-changing for you, for your organization. So I would encourage you to think through that. Where do you need more boundaries around your team and your own time and energy? All right, Emily, great conversation. If people want to send their own questions just like this, where do they send them to?
lab@forwardpartners.net.
lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us on the socials, where we are, by the way, you produce an incredible amount of content for one human being. If they want to consume that content and level up their leadership, where do they find us?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner. Emily, thank you for doing this. Danny, thank you for producing. Wilco Workspaces, thank you for partnering with us. We will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.